You learn about your shadows and your light in human design. And I fully believe that our way to prosperity and success and joy is through our shadow. The
Mm.
more we can integrate our shadow, the parts of us that we don't feel loved or don't feel lovable about, the more we become whole and we come into success and prosperity. We become magnetic.
Welcome to the Expansion Code Bridal Edition, the show for bridal hairstylists, makeup artists, beauty pros, and yes, even brides who want the behind the veil scoop. I'm your host, Heather Dick, bridal business coach, salon owner, and ringmaster of a 50-person squad that styles hundreds of weddings every year. Around here, we go beyond the hairspray. Think scaling your business, setting boundaries, surviving high-pressure moments, and creating client experiences that everyone raves about. So whether you're building your bridal empire or planning your big day, grab a coffee or champagne, and let's talk business, beauty, and a whole lot of bridal. Welcome back to another episode of the Expansion Code Bridal Edition. Today I have Sheetal Story. She has been introduced into my life through podcasting. What a blessing. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Sheetal is a psychic medium, spiritual grief support counselor. This is long. She has a laundry list of professions here. Professional astrologer and human design coach with a master's in coaching and a business degree from the University of Alberta. She brings a unique blend of spiritual wisdom and practical strategy. What a combination. Sheetal helps professional women trust their intuition, move through grief, and turns life challenges into professional catalysts for growth and soul-aligned success. Whew, what an intro.
I have a lot of certifications and I like to help women overcome grief and step into their purpose and become successful and prosperous at whatever they do.
I love it. That was the Cliff's
Just say
Notes.
that. Yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing so great. I was looking forward to seeing you again and having this conversation. It is going to be exciting for you, I think, and all the people who are listening. Heather doesn't really know all the things I'm about to say about her chart. So,
No. Before we get into it, why don't you, because I think human design is becoming quite trendy, but only in like a small niche group of individuals. Can you give me a background on, other than your intro, what you do with human design, how you integrate it into professional business, and all that juicy good?
I love it. Yes, and I'm always surprised because I live in this spiritual bubble of how many people really don't know about any of this stuff. I'm like, I live this stuff. So human design and astrology are based on your birth time, which is why I love them so much. And it is a complex system to understand what you were born with, the energy that creates you. And so astrology just looks at the energy that was coming onto this planet at the time you were born, encapsulates in this little body that is your being. And as you walk through life, that energy is evolving and growing. And as you intersect with other people, their energy either jives with you or doesn't jive with you. And you can feel that. And so human design is a totally different system. It is based on your birth time. There is some astrology in it. It's a newer system, but it really talks about the neutrinos, which are the smallest particles of matter, as it was encapsulated in your body as the time you were born. It creates this design as to who you are underneath all the conditioning. So it uses different language, but it's very similar in terms of the personal development and the uses that we can use it for. Human design calls itself a science of differentiation because it goes to show us who we are authentically without our parents projecting on us, without our school teachers, our friends projecting on us. Is who we were designed to be as we came into this world. And so as a coach and someone who helps entrepreneurs moving through grief, this blueprint helps me to guide them back to themselves. And women especially, we play so many roles in this lifetime that we tend to forget who we are as we take on the roles of mother, of wife, of business owner, that eventually a grief will come that will sort of take us out at the knees. And these are the moments that I'm like so excited for, because these are a recreation, it's a transformation. And in that transformation, you get to come back to your knowing who you are, your soul's wisdom. And that's why I teach and I have all of these tools that come together to meet you in that need.
This sounds fascinating. And I think, how old are you, Sheetal? Can I ask that?
I'm 47. Oh, she'll be
Okay.
48 in 2 weeks.
Oh, happy birthday. So I'm 40, and I remember around the age of 20, I was a real estate agent. wow, didn't know what I was doing. But they had those personality questions, like personality quizzes. So are you? Do you remember they had like the colors gold, blue, green, and they also have the other. What are the other personality questions?
There's DISC, there's, Myers-Briggs, there's
Yes,
different psychological, yeah, evaluations, and then now there's the Enneagram as well.
yes.
But you're
Oh,
taking those from the mind,
okay,
right? You're answering those questions from the mind. So every time I take an Enneagram, I'm a different freaking number, different wing. Like, it was so frustrating to me that none of these things could actually tell me who I was. And I can
right,
see, because I have my like psychology and my grief counseling, I can see what the answers are really asking of me. So, I would answer them in the way that I wanted to be seen
right.
versus the way that I truly am. So every time I take those tests, I'm such a different person every time, depending on who I am in the moment that I answer it. Whereas that does not change with human design and
Right.
astrology.
Well, and we're human, so we want to succeed all the time. So a lot of times when we answer questions, especially on a personality quiz, it's like, what is the right answer here instead of
Yeah,
what's the true answer? So maybe a flaw of mine is that I wear mixed match socks, if that would be a flaw, but I know that people want to hear that my socks are perfectly matched all the time. So then I answer that way. And then the whole questionnaire is skewed. Whereas human design is not like that.
100%. It sees you for who you are at the time you were born. That's why it's based on your birth time versus, you answering a quiz. That's why I loved these as personal development tools that I wanted to go deeper into.
Do you wanna just dive in? What do you wanna do? I feel like Sheetal also has an incredible podcast. She'll plug it at the end of this episode, but you have to listen to her podcast. She's also great at this, so I feel like she's hosting me a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just rolling with it. I'm going with it.
It is never my intention to take over your podcast, but I'm excited to dig into your chart. And so, what I really was hoping today is that not only your listeners or viewers, or depending on where you're catching this, that gets to understand how this works, in terms of helping and coaching and bringing to the surface things that you might not know about yourself. But so this is going to be a very vulnerable podcast. I asked Heather's permission before I started. Yeah, she's
I
got to
got my
clean up.
tissues.
And we were ready. Tears often flow around me as a psychic medium and empath, and that's okay. They're welcome here. But I did ask Heather's permission, and I always do. I don't just share people's stories without
Sure,
their permission. But one of the things that I noticed about your human design and your astrology, actually, let's start there because you said you know a little bit about your human design, and you know a little bit of astrology, but you didn't know a lot about either. And so you are a generator, first of all. So in human design, there are 5 types. There's a generator, manifesting generator, projector, manifester, and a reflector.
right.
So in those 5 categories, everyone has one of those 5 categories in their design, and it is how you're designed to operate in the collective. So, for example, a manifesting generator and generator, we build very fast. We are sort of the actors in the play. We're building the set, we're building the way forward, and we are the actors playing it out. The projectors are the directors of the play. They tell
Mm,
us what to do. They are advisors. They see the bigger picture, and they have to be invited in to share their perspective. Otherwise, it falls on deaf ears. And then
interesting.
the manifestors are the people who are writing the scripts for the play. So they are bringing from non physical into physical. They're seeing the way forward. They're creating new things that are really lighting the way for the rest of us. And then, as generators and manifesting generators, we can take that script and run with it, or we start to make it our own, or we pick up the storyline and start to go in that direction. And then the reflectors, who are the least, there's I think about 5% of the population are reflectors. They are the audience people. They have no energy of their own. They are reflecting back the energy of the people around them. They are very empathic and very sensitive, and they're letting us know if we're doing well. So they're the people in the audience saying, "Yay, you're doing it," or "No, this is not the way we're supposed to go."
Oh,
So obviously, if you're a reflector in this time in history, you're having a bit of a tough time because we are going through some massive shifts with the collective, with laws, with governments, with all the things, and they're feeling that, right? And I mean, if we're all in it together, so we're all feeling that for sure.
sure.
So as a generator, what do you know about yourself?
Well, I have had this read before and I forget it all. I don't really remember. I remember being like a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Mm.
sorry. I feel like I take in a bunch of information and I don't retain it. So, but I
It's
do. But
okay.
I do remember about reflectors. I remember someone saying, and no offense to any reflectors out there, that they are potentially like the serial killers of the world. Could I even say that? Is that
I
bad?
don't yeah, I think that is not accurate.
Okay.
I'm gonna be super honest. Did you know that the majority of serial killers are Virgos? Which, by
Oh,
the way, I'm a Virgo, so
oh,
it's about precision and details. So, it's not really
interesting.
reflectors are about energy. They're mostly empaths. They feel things, are very creative. All the reflectors I have met are either in hair, in makeup, in
Mm,
design, in, foods. They're very much nourishers. They want to support. They're like therapists in their own world, right?
interesting.
Because they can feel what you need and they can reflect it back to you. So, no, not serial
Okay.
killers
Well,
at
there you
all.
go. And we're
That's
leaving that in the
interesting.
show.
I love
Um,
it. Yes.
okay, yeah, generator, I don't remember. I remember thinking that I thought I would have been a manifesting generator when it was explained to me. So,
Mhm.
maybe you can just explain and I'll feel like I'm
Yeah.
relating again.
Yes, because as a generator, when you're excited about what you're like what's creatively flowing through you. So when you're in creative flow, you can go and go and go forever, right? You are a creative force. And when you're that creative force, that flow, you're magnetic. And
Mm,
that is where I see in entrepreneurs is what I coach entrepreneurs in is that is when you are the most aligned. Clients just find you. All of a sudden
oh,
they're like, "Oh,
interesting.
somebody mentioned your name," or "I just heard about your podcast." It's about magnetism versus struggle and hustle and moving after things. So, as a generator, you are so magnetic when you are in flow with what lights you up and what inspires you. You're not meant to do the one thing forever, but when you switch to something, it is major. Whereas a manifesting generator, we skip steps. So, I'm a Manny Gen. So, I skip steps. I can pivot and dodge. If you looked at my product offering suite, it is vast because I'm like, I need to talk about the spiritual laws of success. No, I need to do a course on astrology. No, I need to course on mediumship. Like, so I just follow my creativity and my creative spark dances around. I am a coach's nightmare unless you understand human design
Right.
because I'm meant to be multi passionate. I mean, you read my laundry list of certifications,
Yeah,
right?
it was a laundry list.
It is a
Yes.
laundry list,
Yeah.
and it was one of the things I was actually feeling really down about. I had a coach say to me
Mm,
one time that I was taking up astrology, and she was my mediumship coach who taught me tarot, and she said to me, a jack of all trades is a master of none."
mm,
She tell no one's gonna know who to find you, what to come to you for, and I was like, "That's not true." Like, I feel it in my bones. That's crap. That doesn't belong to me. But it belonged to her, but she was
right.
projecting it onto me. And I was like,
Right.
no, I don't believe that. And then I took up human design and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you're meant to be multi passionate. I'm like, yes. And I literally hold a gate that is called the Jack of all trades gate.
Oh.
And the whole saying goes, the Jack of all trades is a master of none, but still better than a master of one. And so
Oh.
my teacher did not know the whole thing, did not reflect back to me the whole thing. And so here's just an example of how human design made me realize this is who I am. And I was feeling bad that I have all these. I always joke with my coach where I feel like I'm the watch salesman, that I have all the watches. Like, do you want mediumship? Do you want astrology? Do
Yeah.
you want to talk about
I got
coaching? Do you want
this.
grief counseling? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got all of them. Where do I go? What do I
Yeah.
do? And she said, you just have to follow your passion. So that's the difference between a Manny Gen and a Gen. Like, you're going to be somebody who is lit up and magnetic. You stay to one thing for a while until you
Mm,
feel like it's kind of like worn its path. And we kind of had a chat about that. And then you move to something else. And it doesn't mean that you're giving up that other arm. You
sure.
can actually add that arm to your business, or you kind of having it as part of your repertoire. Whereas
Mhm.
I tend to leave that energy behind and I move on to something else.
I'm also gonna be honest about this. I feel a little awkward that this podcast is about me because normally with my guests, I really try to focus on you guys. So in my head, I was like, okay, so what should I ask her now? But I'm just gonna go with it. Also, I think that I just heard this out in the world the other day. Someone's like, oh, they bounce around a lot. Like she was a photographer, and then she was doing. It was not about myself; it was about someone else. And I
Hmm.
said, and I was like, maybe she'll just do that forever. Like that's okay. There's not one thing that, we have this, like, societal expectation that you, like, find your career and you stay in it for the rest of your life, and that's just not true, and people don't thrive that way. You see it all the time. People are so unhappy when they aren't living their truth in alignment.
100%. And for some people, they can do their one thing and do that forever because that lights them up. And
Right.
I think also older generations, we're seeing that in the world as well, where they were just trained that you stay in this one job for 30, 40 years, you get your pin, you get your retirement thing, and then you retire on a beach somewhere.
Mhm.
And that is not the generations of our era.
No.
And like they are the younger ones that are coming up, they're going to be multi passionate and multi purpose in everything. Like they're going to have multiple careers, right? There's a profile in human design that has a 3 in it, and the 3 is called trial and error. And so there's so many of my clients that have the trial and error part of their chart that they have been projected on depending on what part of your chart you have it in. But if you have it in the second part of your chart, it's a subconscious projection.
Mm.
So someone is projecting onto you that this trial and error is bad. Whereas if you have it in the first part of your, you're conscious to it. So you're like, oh, I'm going to try different things and that's who I am. But if it's in your subconscious, I have a client who has it in her subconscious part of her chart, and everyone in her life is projected to her that she's wrong, that she's a
Mm.
F up, that she's had multiple careers. And she's been successful in every career she's ever had. But then she just picks up and tries something else and moves across the country,
Yeah.
like a bold Aries, like,
Yeah.
just able to go wherever she desires and create success at everything she does. But yet the people around her say, "Oh, you've had so many careers. You've never finished anything." And she's like, "I finished everything. I was done. I just didn't
Mm.
want to go on past the point of doneness."
Yeah.
So one could say she's actually very internally aware
Yeah.
that she was done and she had to leave. So, but again, the projection in our counseling sessions, we really had to move through that I'm an F up, that I finished nothing. And I said, well, tell me what it would look like to finish teaching. Tell me what it would
Right.
look like to finish sales. And she's like, well, you just kind of know. I said, when do people know? She's like, I guess people just know when it's time to leave. So I said, that's the finished, right?
Yeah.
You were done.
Yeah.
So maybe you can explain that to the people who say you aren't, you should go back to teaching.
Yeah.
So it's that projection piece. This is what I love about human design. So you have a 4-1 as your profile.
I'm
So the
writing this
4
down.
part of your beginning profile is about, I have a 4 as mine as well. So this, I love so many things. We have so many things in common. This 4 means that you are very much about networks, about relationships, about groups, and authentic connection. So the more you have authentic connections with people, the more your business is going to grow, the more you will feel fulfilled in life, and the more relationships you cultivate, the more people then you can serve and help or send people through, or I know somebody that can help you over here. So it's not necessarily, for your gain per se,
Yeah.
but to add purpose and opportunity for other people as well to connect to together. Does that make sense for you?
Oh, 100%. I've preached that all the time on this podcast. All the time. Network, that's how you build. You build a community. It takes a village. You have a community. You have these people. And I guess that's not true for everyone, but it's been a very, very big pusher in my success and my company's success for sure.
And that network and that relationship grid that you're building is, there's also everything in astrology and human design has its shadow and it has its light. So the light on this one is you have lots of connections, you know lots of people, you have a lot of experience with people, and you have a lot of trust in those relationships.
Mm.
So sometimes as a woman in business, who I came from corporate as well, so I understand networking like gives me the ick. Like I literally just like, ugh, right? Because it's like, oh, what's your name? Where's your business card? Like I went to something recently and someone shoved their business card in my face and I was like, I don't think I'm going to use that. You might want to just take that back. So like,
Please give
what?
someone a hit no.
Yeah, I was like, what's your social media? Let's look at who you are underneath
Yeah.
this. Let's have a conversation about your sun,
Yeah.
moon, and rising sign, shall
You're
we?
like
And she was
name,
like,
date, birth date,
yeah,
everything else. Okay.
100%.
Thank you
If
so
you're
much.
in my heart, you're in my astrology charts, okay? Like that's a fact. So this 4, I'm a 4 as well. So this networking and this relationships, and I'm an extrovert through and through. I
Mhm.
can see from your astrology chart you are not. There's a lot of introversion in there too. So I'm going to say
Okay.
you're an ambivert. In the right spaces, you can come out of your shell, but you need a lot of alone time as well. Would you
Agreed,
say?
100%. Yeah, I fully agree with that.
And so the downside of the 4 is we can get burnt out because
Yes.
we're so busy socializing, networking, but you know what I mean? Like being out in the world and being with people. So does that make sense?
Yes, and it's so funny because when you talk about the whole network and giving out the business cards, I'm like, "Ooh, I love that." I love that little, like, let's get to know each other. It's like 51st dates. I used to love dating for that reason. I was like, "Oh, yeah, tell me your story. Oh, here's what" so in the same breath, especially I don't know if as I get older or whatever it is, I get really, really tired from a lot of, social gatherings or networking, I have to take quite a bit of a downtime break and just be alone. Um, and maybe I'm just being more aware too. Like maybe I've always felt this way, but I would just push through. So I do give a lot, and then but it takes a lot out of me.
And I think that's the brilliance of age. It's the
Yeah,
wisdom of being really aware of what's within.
right.
There's another part of your chart that also requires you to be alone to get your downloads, to get your ideas, your inspiration. I'll talk about that in a moment. But the subconscious part of your profile is a one. And this one is, it means that you're an investigator. You like to go deep with information. You've got to know the why behind something. And so in your subconscious part of your profile, there's a projection here of I don't know enough, that I need to
Mm,
go deeper. Who am I to claim this as an authority? These are things that can pull you back, right? And there's also this wisdom that you have on all the things because you want to go into research and you want to learn all the things. So you're a real knowledge keeper, but you don't realize it. Like you might not have all the certifications, or you might, but you just might not talk about it, or your wisdom can be lived versus that kind of paper piece of it. How
I
does that relate for you?
Oh, I just had these thoughts literally, but when I was getting ready for this podcast, I was like, and it has nothing to do with you. It's mostly about coaching clients, and in the bridal sector. And I'm like, what? How am I supposed to coach so and so on expanding into another city? And I get that like imposter syndrome where I'm like, what exactly what you said? Who am I to claim this? But then
Mhm.
I step back and it's like, no, no, no. I have all of the skills all in my toolbox plus some, and different variables for different cities or professions or whatever. And also the why, that like hunger. I love reading books that educate me on things, and not even necessarily one topic. I will read on like the opioid epidemic. I'll read
Yeah.
on Right now I'm reading on like the AIDS outbreak. Like there's business, like there's everything. I'm very hungry for it, and then I share it, and then I feel like people are like, okay, know it all. I'm like, no, 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 this is crazy.
In your astrology, I'm just going to bounce to astrology for a moment, is that you have the axis of knowledge is in Gemini and Sagittarius,
Okay.
and you have a lot of Gemini Sagittarius planets. So your moon is in Sagittarius. You have a hunger for knowledge. You have a possibilities mindset. You look to the horizon. You're an optimist. You're a
Yes.
visionary. You like to see the bigger picture, and you're often optimistic about outcomes because you know that you can create solutions for it.
Mm.
Make sense?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yes.
100%.
And when someone gets to know you and gets in your heart, this is the part of you that shines. They're like, "Oh my god, let's talk about all the things. Let's talk about leprechauns and they exist in the world." Like that's I have a gem I have a Sagittarius moon as well, so I see you. That is the conversations that we will have when we're like when someone's in my heart.
Right.
But when they first see you, they see the Gemini, and that's your Gemini rising. And the Gemini is very knowledgeable, it's curious, it's community based, it wants to learn little bits of knowledge, the spore cycle of a mushroom, and then you go down how to combine these two colors on Facebook. I've recently been targeted by that ad, and I'm riveted every time with how to mix colors and what they look like as you mix them. And this is Gemini,
That's
right?
so
Little
funny.
pieces of information that are like sparkly and you want to bring it all together. But then Sagittarius is you go deep into one
Mm,
area of knowledge. So you've got this axis in your chart that is so much about knowledge and wisdom, and you want to know it all, but then you might get pulled in different directions because it can be very ADHD, in
yes.
terms of lots of, it can be very scattered and it can
Mhm.
pull you in so many directions. So grounded base, which you're a Taurus sun, that ground, it's fixed earth. You need that so much in your life to stay
Yes.
the course on what you're focused on because your mind can pull you in so many directions. Does that make sense for you?
Girl, I know it. I know it. It's
So,
a
what strategies do you use for that?
just a lot of self-awareness, to be honest. I think I can recognize when I'm starting to spiral, and not necessarily about bad things, but I'm 40. So like I've gone down the rabbit holes. I've gone down the bad rabbit holes. I've had negative self-talk. I've talked myself out of it. And I think that the biggest thing and the biggest strategy for myself, especially when I feel all over the place, is just to kind of recognize, oh, Heather, you actually we're looking this up, and now I know you clicked on this. Let's just go back to this. And I just kind of step back, and I take time for myself. So I'm not constantly spinning out of control and saying yes to a bunch of things, and I can have that like quiet time to kind of go for a walk or do nothing or,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, that quiet time, because your brain is so brilliant, is that it needs that time tired that quiet mind to just be still.
Yeah.
So meditation might be a little difficult for you, like, you have an Aries mind, which is very entrepreneurial. So that mind just can go in directions of creativity and spark, and if you give that's why it makes you such a good business coach, is that someone says, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this new arm of my business." And you're like, "I can create the structure that's gonna make you
I
millions, you
got you,
know?"
girl. Yeah, that's
Yes,
me. I'm
me
like, "Let's
too.
sit down. When can you meet? Tomorrow, 3 o'clock? Perfect." Yeah,
Yes, you want
yeah,
to go,
yeah.
right? And you have your Venus, which is relationships and love and values are in Aries too, which is again very entrepreneurial, very bold, courageous, pioneering. And it's in a house in your chart where it's about collaborations, not really, about groups and associations. So the more that you start things like memberships as a four in your
Mm,
chart too, memberships, groups, group coaching, that's going to be able to create that network, but also reach a
mm.
larger audience with less. So you can kind of hit all of, all of it at once, and also create that network of people that then get to know each other and then get to coach, as a mastermind, coach each other too, or have gifts that the network can share too. So I really feel like your direction, this is a psychic download that you're either going to start a membership or a group coaching opportunity to then use all your gifts to help many women at once, or many
It's
business owners at once.
it's so funny, Sheetal, because as we're talking, I'm like, "Okay, so now I've got the social media manager. Now once I have that and I can get the email marketing going, and then we can get the what could we do in the membership?" Like, that's how my brain's as I'm listening to you and taking in everything you're saying too. And people love talking about themselves. So everyone that's listening to this episode, I really hope that you can see we love talking about ourselves. We love learning about ourselves, especially something like this. This is so foreign to the majority of the population. I am loving this. So, yeah.
But as someone who's listening to this, I want you to think about these things for you. It's like, what does community mean to you? What are the things
Mm,
that are your hot buttons? What feel like a natural tendency? What are your gifts and talents that just genuinely come out,
yeah,
right? I mean, you could pull your own human design chart as well and start to go down the rabbit hole of things. A really good resource for the humans. Is it okay if I drop
please.
it here?
Yep.
It's called www.humandesignblueprint.com, and it's actually the website of my teacher, Erin Claire Jones. And you can pull your chart right on there. You don't have to give anything information wise, like it's just all there. You can read about yourself, and she gives a really great free resource to look at all these parts of you. But I find I don't really I can read things and
Yeah,
digest it, but I find like in this kind of forum when someone's asking you questions, you're gonna remember generator a lot more than the
totally.
last time, because
Hmm.
this is more integrative, right? Like,
Hmm.
I hate readings where you're like, "You're a generator. This is the textbook meaning of a generator." And you're like, "Great. I didn't retain any of that."
Totally.
It's because it's not applicable. Like, you want to make it applicable to you, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
and sorry to interrupt you, but the
go ahead.
play analogy of each of the five different human design types, that'll stick with me forever. Because I just remember thinking like the reflectors were so serial killers. No offense, that's not correct. Projectors, I remember as my friend Jody. You just like remember little snippets, but it also depends on how you learn. But that analogy is perfect. It's going to stay with me forever. What are the happenings of a play? When you're saying to me, does that sound like it's something to you? Then it makes me think. Whereas I'm just reading something on a piece of paper, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds true. Or like when you're reading your horoscope, or where does Taurus and Capricorn match?
Yes.
Um, yeah, it's just so much more personal.
Yes, personalized, and I think a good reader will have you feeling that,
Mm,
right? Will have you feeling that integration in real time versus like, here's your I actually don't send anything to you ahead of time if you're doing a human design, because I want you to have it with me first, and then I'll send you all your reports and all your things so you can read about yourself for, bedtime reading, because who doesn't love to read about themselves, right?
or talk about themselves. I'm struggling, but I love it. If we could go on for we have 2 hours. Let's just do the whole 2 hours talking about me, Sheetal.
I can do it. I have so much information. We just touched the surface. Well, good.
Okay, let's continue.
Mhm. So one of the things that really stood out to me in your chart, you have a very unique definition, meaning the centers that you have a lot of defined energy in your chart of who you
Okay.
are. So you have a very strong sense of self
Mm,
and a really strong sense of purpose, but they all don't connect to each other. And so what that means is called a triple split, which is not very common. Only 11% of the population have that.
Oh,
And so the triple split requires you to be around other people that bridge those traits together. So being in rooms of like retreats, masterminds, conferences, being out and about talking to people, they start to bridge those components together. And you'll notice certain people, I looked up our charts, I bridge a lot of those things for you as well, that we then come together to connect. And then you feel that energy flow through all the parts of you so much easier than just sitting in your, in your office by yourself, hermiting,
yeah,
which that doesn't do you well.
it doesn't do me it and I know that I need to have a quiet mind in order to be creative, but that doesn't always necessarily mean I need to be alone.
Hmm.
There's a difference. Quiet and alone are 2 different things
Well
for me.
said. Well said. Yeah, it is. And there are some people, most of the people in the world either have a single definition, which means all their channels connect together, all
Mhm.
their centers connect together, not channels, their centers. And so then they have their own inner knowing their way they need to go. They don't need any outside input. And then there's people who are splits, like myself, where I have two parts of my chart that don't connect. And it was so interesting because the one gate, I need just one gate to connect everything together, and all of the people on my team, every single team member, I have an integrator, I have a coach, I have a business coach, I have a VA, all of those people on my team all have that gate.
Wow.
It's crazy. I
That's
didn't
so
realize it
crazy.
until I was just going down a rabbit hole, and I was like, "Oh my
Wow.
god, what are the chances that this was all everyone on my team connects the parts of my chart together so that
Wow.
when I am talking to them, my ideas flow, they fill in the gaps for things that I was missing." And so, like, we will just naturally draw in people who
Yeah.
fill in these parts of our chart,
Hmm.
and but it requires us to be out and about. So even
Yeah.
people with a single definition still need to be out and about in the world to get their missions, accomplished, or being of service, or have their gifts, being in out into the world.
Yeah.
So we're not meant to hermit. There are some designs that are more so meant to hermit into their own self,
Right.
but that's not you. That's not you. Need time by yourself, but you are required to be around other people, not only for your networking piece, but for your bridging.
So what okay, so what are the splits then? Like, do you have a name for the splits or
Yes.
it's just split? Okay.
It's gonna get more complicated, but it goes
Okay.
single, then it goes simple split, it goes wide split, triple split, and then a quadruple split. So then the splits just mean that there's parts of your chart that don't connect to each other. So
Okay.
you have energy in those centers, but they're not connecting through different channels and gates and stuff. So you need more to connect them together. So
Okay.
it then reflects out into our life in different ways that we need those connections to come together.
Okay. Wow. I wonder who invented this. This is
Uh,
incredible.
so
Like, the amount of research and information that goes into this is incredibly detailed.
it
And, like,
is,
how
and
would
it
you yeah.
you wanna know the origin story of human design? Gonna blow your mind.
Okay.
So,
Tell
a
me.
gentleman was in, Ibiza. He was in
Okay.
Ibiza on a mystical retreat. He was on a
Okay.
retreat of some kind, and he was walking back to his hut in 1987. His name was Alan Krakauer, and all of a sudden, he had this mystical experience with divine, with source, and he sat in his hut for 7 days and downloaded this entire system in a hut in the middle of Ibiza on a beach and download this entire system. It's like wild because
Wow.
it overlaps with the Chinese I Ching, with the Kabbalah system, with astrology, with the chakra system, with quantum physics. So it's so dynamic that I was, as soon
Incredible.
as I heard about it, there was just something, a coach of mine used it to help us understand a part of ourselves. And I was like, I need to become the expert. And I went into every certification. I have 2 certifications on it, and I'm like going into I wanna take another one, and I'm like, I'm hearing the universe go, "Chill, Sheetal, you don't need another one," but I just, like, wanna suck up all the information on it.
Quick pause because I have to brag on my first business baby, Blush Artistry. If you know me, you know that blush isn't just work, it is love. And we are talking hair, makeup, skin treatments, private personal training, the full beauty experience inside and out that makes you feel like the main character, whether it's your wedding day, a birthday, or just because you love taking care of yourself. My team, they are absolute pros. They've got the talent, the heart, and the hype to make you feel amazing. That's why Blush is the go to beauty squad in Western Canada. Can I get an amen? So if you're ready for a little glow up moment, head to blush-artistry.ca or catch us on Instagram at blushartistrymua. All right, let's get back to the show. Ibiza is a really magical place.
Yes.
That's got a lot of energy flowing through that. I've never been there. Have you been there before?
I have not been there, but I've had a number of people say that the energy has shifted because it's become so commercialized.
Oh,
So, I think there's still places, like Sedona and
yeah.
there places of vortex and energy around the world. That seems like a whole other podcast, but there's different energies in this planet, right, based on the magnetic, lines that go through that place that either give you a mystical experience, so
Mm,
push you sort of up into the cosmos or bring you down into yourself. So if you
mm.
think about Sedona is one of those, it goes up into the cosmos, so it sort of pushes the energy up, whereas Hawaii is grounding energy, it comes down into yourself. So that's why it's so healing. There's a lot of healing centers there. And then there's a lot of mystical things that happen in Sedona, a lot of alien encounters and sightings and things like that.
Oh, that's so interesting. My family has a condo on Maui, and we love it there.
Interesting. Yeah, so grounding and healing.
The best place in the world, and it feels to
Love it.
me, and I mean, I've been blessed enough to travel all over the place and tropical too, Fiji, and nothing has felt like Hawaii to me.
Hawaii.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. I've been to Maui, and it was the only place in the world. I've traveled all over Asia and, all over the US as well, not so
Yeah.
much Europe yet. Um, and Maui was the only place that I was like, "I would move here. I would 100%
Yeah.
live here." Every other place, I'm like, "Nope."
Yeah.
So it's just such great energy there. Highly recommend to anyone who hasn't been.
Yeah, I agree. But not too many of you because we don't want our island trampled.
There are many parts of Maui,
There's many parts
so
of Maui, there's many parts of Hawaii too. There's many
correct.
islands, so you don't necessarily have to go to Maui. Okay. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Well, I don't really know how far we're into this we are, but maybe you're going to get to it. So, taking into all of this consideration, all of these things, when someone gets their human design chart read, how does it help them lead or build their business or grow their success? Am I jumping ahead?
No, I don't think so. I think you've kind of already experienced that. I
Right.
might ask you that question because I can see how. So, one of the classes that I teach is on human design and your social media. Is
Mm,
that if you follow your social, as soon as I started to follow my human design for my
mm,
social media blew up. I'm at over 100K views right now on my Instagram for the last 30 days, and it's growing exponentially, and
incredible.
it's just because I'm just sharing from a place of my heart. I'm following my 4-6, which is I'm all about groups and calling people into safe spaces and then
Mm,
sharing my wisdom, which is the 6 part of it. So for you, the 1, you might do a tutorial or you might be talking
mm,
about information on things that you've learned, or you might have a quick tip every Monday on your socials that then people are like, oh my gosh, I need to, get this from you, or you're somebody that I know, like, and trust, right? So, from a business perspective, we can create so much strategy. I know all the tools and tactics, girl. I've had so many business managers. I've taken all the course. I have a degree in business. I've joined so many different coaches and masterminds. I've got all the tools and tactics. I've tried them all. And I
yeah.
was so frustrated that none of them were working for
Yeah.
me. And as soon as I learned my human design, and now I have my coaching and human design certification, as soon as I started to follow that, it was like the
Mm,
money just started to roll in because
mm,
it's effortless, it's
yeah.
magnetic, and you're not trying, you're not hustling and grinding. And you're still trying, you're still having to, do the thank you pages and do the videos and all the things, but
Sure.
I'm excited about it. I'm not trying to do something that doesn't feel aligned. Like even my podcast, we kind of talked about this, is like I love talking. I
Yeah.
love sharing information. I know you do too.
Love it.
And so I've got so much to share. Yes, you're 1 and you're Sagittarius and you're Gemini, like 100% you're meant to be speaking and you're meant to be seen speaking. Like you're so good at it. You have such an articulate voice to you and you have such fire. And so when we know that we're on that right path, I know so many of my friends, especially in the entrepreneurial space, have tried podcasts and quit after
Mm,
5 to 10 episodes.
yeah.
So many people fail in podcasting
So many.
because they don't realize this is not their jam. This is not,
Yeah.
they think it's shiny. Somebody said you should be on a podcast or you
Mm,
should have a podcast, and then they don't have the chops to follow through,
yeah.
right? I literally have the gate of commitment in my human design. fine. I will commit to something until the day I die before I break that commitment,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a great
So,
quality.
it can be,
Can
unless you're
be.
committed to something that's broken, it's
Right.
not gonna work.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting, right? I mean, you learn about your shadows and your light in human design, and I fully believe that our way to prosperity and success and joy is through our shadow. The
Mm.
more we can integrate our shadow, the parts of us that we don't feel loved or don't feel lovable about, the more we become whole and we come into success and prosperity. We become magnetic.
Can you talk about that a little bit more about the shadow? I think that's a term that not a lot of people have heard.
So in psychology, we would call that sort of the younger self, or
Okay.
the part of us that is not very lovable. So
Mm.
when we think to parts of ourself that we don't love or that we have guilt or shame about, those are parts that we in spirituality will call the shadow.
Okay.
So when we're doing like inner work, inner child work or parts work, we then will meet those parts of us. So I'll give you an example. This is a very vulnerable example. I was in junior high, my very first boyfriend, and very handsy, and he wanted to sort of make out with me in the hallway, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed, it's my first boyfriend, but he really wanted me to. So I said yes, and then class let out, the bell rang, and everybody was coming through, and he wouldn't stop. And I
Mhm.
didn't have the ability at that time to say stop, or I'm feeling very shy about it. And to this day, my best friend would tease me about it. Remember that time when you were like making out in the hallway and everybody could see
Mm.
you? And I was like, always be so ashamed that I just wanted to shut that down and look away and not talk about it. And when I was doing inner child work with one of my coaches, she's like, I want you to go back to a time when you feel a lot, very shamed. And I was thinking back to this grade 9 me. And I said, she's like, I want you to pull her forward and I want you to hear what she has to say to you.
Mm.
And in that moment, I got to hear her. And she got to tell me that she didn't feel strong enough to say
Mhm.
no in that moment. And I realized that there's a part of me that feels very hard to say no to people. I have very hard time with boundaries as someone who can feel when someone's disappointed in
Right.
me. And I had to learn at that point then that it was okay to disappoint people and that it's not me that's disappointing them. They're just unhappy with the circumstance.
Yeah.
And so the more then I called her in and I sat with her and I told her I loved her, that moment changed everything. That I was able to stand on stages now, that no one can shame me about any of that shit. Excuse me.
No, that's fine.
And and I own that part of me now. And so my girlfriend brought it up one more time after that, and I was like, "You know what? I have so much love for that Sheetal of grade 9 that had to do that for herself, and I bring her home
Mhm.
now and we celebrate her wisdom from that situation, and she's never brought it up again
How
since."
powerful.
That's shadow work.
That's life-changing. Literally life-changing.
It is.
Wow.
And so we all have those parts of us. We all have those parts of us that we're ashamed of, or we wish we'd have done it differently. And especially as women, we're not perfect. There are things with my kids that I did when they were little that now I know science is like, that's bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cry yourself to sleep. That's a
Yeah.
terrible thing. I knew it in the
Yeah.
moment, but I
Yeah.
overrode my inner knowing. And that's why so much of my work is about listening to your inner knowing above all else,
Mm.
because it'll tell you when things are not right. And you just got to trust that.
Yeah. And it's so hard to listen to your intuition, especially when it's going against the grain.
Yeah.
There's so many times I feel like I'm very intuitive now, but and always have been, but didn't listen to it. And then, it comes back and bites me in the butt and I'm like, "Oh, frick. I knew it. I knew I should have said no to that event, or I should have said no to that person, or whatever the case may be." And I encourage everyone listening to this to just listen to your instinct no matter what that says, whether it's yes, no,
Mhm.
go, stop, whatever. It's so powerful.
I teach an Intuition 101 class. And in intuition, yeah, I lots of classes, but I teach this time, right? And it's an Intuition 101 class, and in that class, I say to you, like, bring a journal, and you're gonna build your book of evidence of how your intuition works for you. I'm gonna
Mm,
show you the way, I'm gonna show you a bunch of exercises, but how your intuition works for you is you. It's not the way mine works for me. We're gonna have very different experiences of our intuition.
right.
And so whether you listened or you didn't, you got you got the lesson,
Yes.
right? You got the information.
Yeah.
So next time, can you make your life easier by listening to your intuition the first time? So every time you listen to your intuition or you didn't, write it down in your journal and
Mm.
build your own book of evidence of your intuition is always bang on. It's
Oh,
always leading you down the right path that eventually is going to lead to where you need to go. I mean, all paths lead to where you're going to go.
always. Yeah. Yeah,
You
I'm a
can
firm
take the
believer.
scenic route or
Yeah.
you can take the fast route.
Yeah.
So
But either way, it's the right way. And I think
that's
that,
right.
we, especially business owners, newer business owners, like in the 1 to 3 years, there's so much doubt. Oh my gosh, like you with your kids, I didn't do this the right way, or you find out you should have been doing something differently. And it's so easy to get bogged down in those, like, in the minutia of what you didn't do right, instead of focusing on what you have done right and how far you've come, and how far you're still going to go. So I'm not really sure where I'm going with that, or what made that pop into my head, but I think that's important for everyone listening too. We're all going to make mistakes, and we've all made like the biggest, stupidest, most expensive mistakes ever. So just keep going. You're on the right path.
There's a book called The Gap in the Gain from Dr. Benjamin Hardy and
Mm,
Dan Sullivan, and that book talks to exactly that. As a business owner, I think everyone should read that book because the gap in the gain. So the gap is where our mind naturally goes, and of course, if you were brought up in a very high achiever household or criticized in which who wasn't right,
right.
then
Yeah.
you're always going to focus on the gap.
Right.
Where am I needing to go? How much further am I? Look at how much I need to do still. I have all this that I owe, this debt, everything. We're always focusing on the gap. Our brain
Totally.
naturally goes to the gap. But actually, when we go to the gain, how far we've come, we become more successful, more optimistic, and we understand that our hard work has paid off.
Yeah.
So we start to train our brain in terms of the gap, the gain versus the gap. It's a cute little book from Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. You can get to it in an afternoon, really. But it really I just gave you the crux of the book, really, is focusing on
You're
just
welcome.
Cole's note. So that, yes, it's that gain mentality is growth mindset.
Yeah.
You hear fixed and growth mindset. The gain mentality is growth mindset.
Why do you think that the brain goes to the gap all the time? Is that like a instinctual survival thing to always be, why does that happen?
It is an instinctual thing
Okay.
because the brain is always comparing, because the brain can only create from the past what is known.
Right.
So the brain has been creating its own evidence since the day you were born. And when you're little, when you look at babies, they're just
Yeah.
little sponges, but they're actually globs that are being imprinted on. They're
Mm,
trying to fit into their family unit. And their family unit are their parental figures or the people who are caring for them. Those are their structures. So if they're not safe with those structures, they're not safe at all. And babies are so helpless. So they're biologically wired to mimic their parents and take on their family's values and traits and characteristics. So
mm,
even at the beginning stages of a baby, when you stick out your tongue and they stick out their tongue, and I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. It's actually their brain is wiring to mimic you because
wow.
you're their caregiver.
Hmm,
It's imprinting you into their soul, into their mind. So their mind then becomes our minds become like our caregivers. And our mind then becomes, this is what's known. So this is how I fit in. This is how I belong. So the very first time you have an experience where something caught you off guard, where
mm,
you didn't belong, that someone bullied you or said something to you that you now didn't feel safe. What happens is your brain will kick into high gear of how can we mitigate this so that you always fit into the tribe.
mm.
Because when we think about our biology, back 30,000 years ago, if you're
Yeah.
ostracized from the tribe, you're dead. You're
Yeah.
not going to live. So
Yeah.
this is now still in our wired in our brain, in our amygdala, which is our ancient brain,
Hmm.
that we're going to continue to try to fit in at all costs. And as Dr. Gabor Mate says, we have two needs as children: to be authentic and to be connected. And if
Mm,
connection is uh, or authenticity damages connection, we will drop authenticity in favor of connection because we cannot live without connection.
mm.
We can live without authenticity for a time, but we can't live without connection. So you'll see children and all of us, you listening included, is that you minimize parts of yourself as things happened in your life. I'll give you an example. My parents are immigrants to Canada. I'm first generation Canadian. East Indian, and my mom was literally working 2 jobs and putting herself through school. My dad was a chef in a hotel, so he was working evenings, weekends, and holidays. So I was left at home to look after my brother, who's 5 years younger than me. So we were latchkey kids at a very young age, which was very normal in the 80s and
Yes.
90s. And so I was 12 years old, no, 10 even, looking after my 5-year-old brother, bringing
Yeah.
him home from school. I'd make lunch, I'd make dinner, or I'd make my mom would come home and eat dinner and then go. And she made dinner. We just warm it up. And this now I became my brother's caregiver. And there was so many times I was invited out after school to go to someone's house. I'm an extrovert, right? I'm super social.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "No, you have to look after your brother." So I had to minimize my playful Sagittarius side to be my responsible Virgo side. So when you meet me
Mm,
now, I am super responsible. You won't know that I have this crazy wild side underneath because I've minimized so much of that when I was younger. And the beauty of age is we can come back into ourselves when we start to
yes.
release these layers and sort of say, this is not us. Grief will do that in a very fast and effective and efficient way. So we release those in some form or fashion because our 40s, we're not prepared to play those games anymore. We really want to be ourselves.
Over it.
The gift of 40s. Yep.
It's amazing. It's freeing. There's
100%.
if anyone's listening that is 40, maybe my mom will listen to this episode. She was the one that taught me that. I remember walking into her office. I used to work, we have a family business and I worked there for a really long time. And I remember going in and said, "You know, mom, so and so said this." And it was just like chatter. It was stupid. It was gossip but my feelings are really hurt and my mom looks at me and she's like, "Heather, I don't care. I don't care. Figure it out. You guys are all adults. I got my own shit going on. I don't care." And I was like, "Oh my God." It was in that moment, I was like, How dare you?" And now that's me. I was like, "Dude, I don't care. Figure it out. I got bigger fish to fry." And grief does that too as well. Grief gives perspective, I think.
100%. Because it takes away all of your energy.
Yeah.
Grief is like a chronic illness. Like no one sees it. It's
Hmm.
inside and you're carrying this huge stone and it is so big that I would sort of say like everyone wakes up with a pie, full pie of energy in the day. But when you have grief or chronic illness or chronic pain, you now have half that pie is gone.
Yeah.
So now you're trying to live life with half this pie and you're trying to like live, actually breathe and get yourself through. And then if you're a caregiver or taking care of anyone or in a job, now you're trying to all of that. By the end of the day, you have no energy for
Yeah.
anyone's BS.
Yeah.
So it really
Totally.
filters out any of that noise because you just don't have the energy. You don't have capacity for it.
Hmm. We have diverged off the human design topic, but I'm okay with it because this has been incredible. You're so knowledgeable.
I have a lot of watches, a
I feel
lot
like,
of watches in my jacket.
would you consider yourself a lifelong student?
Yes,
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah. I relate to that. Maybe it's my one because I
Yeah.
feel like I've always wanted to go back to school and go take this course. And I have a million certifications and in all different kinds of things. I feel like yours is, I'm assuming this, but it's a little bit more grouped in one area. I mean, I real estate agent, personal trainer, makeup artist. I mean, I worked at my parents' auto body shop. Like there's just so many things in my jacket of watches.
I think we all do have these interests, but I don't think everyone gives themselves permission to go after them. One of the things that I think is very interesting in your chart, in your astrology chart, is your midheaven, which is your career point. Everyone
Mm,
has theirs. It's going to be a different zodiac sign for everybody. Yours is an Aquarius, which is
okay.
elevated knowledge, elevated consciousness, helping humanity
Oh, wow.
to forward think, to innovate and elevate. And you have Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion, optimism, and good luck at the top of your chart. It's a huge marker for success in business. Anything you touch, as long as you want to elevate everything you touch. I'll say that. Like I saw that very clearly in your chart. It is a gift to have that in your chart that way. So anything you touch, you will become very, very successful at. But as long as you're elevated, I mean, that's who you are too. Like you can't just take something and see the inefficiencies of it. You would
Right.
want to make it efficient and elevate it. I mean, again, another thing that makes you such a great business coach and a coach to people, which again, I think would be great in a mastermind or membership situation that I think is
Noted.
coming. That is coming. And then I also thought this is you have something else that's very rare in your chart, and it's called a juxtaposition cross. So in your human
Oh.
design, your incarnation cross is your purpose, your mission. It's where you're going to be kind of being in purpose in the world. And there's a left angle cross and a right angle cross, and then juxtaposition. So left angle crosses, I always get these two mixed up, but one is a personal view and one is a extrinsic or out into the world view.
Okay.
Juxtaposition means you have both.
Mm.
Very rare. Doesn't happen very often. So you have a few very rare things in your chart. And so this juxtaposition cross is called the cross of the driver. Your direction is discovering your truth and the truth of those around you. You seem to always have direction in your life and you pull in people and pull people forward in their direction. You have
Oh.
such deep purpose and direction in yourself and in your life. It makes you another great coach as well.
I completely relate to that. I bet that if anyone on my team listens to this, they're probably nodding their heads right now because I do tend to do that. Like I tend to kind of, how can I help you? You seem a little, you seem a little off. What's your goal right now? What are you driving towards? How can I help you? Okay, here's what we should do. I think, I mean, I've always loved teaching. I've always loved sharing my knowledge. I've even from like my very first makeup lesson that I've talked about. Um, Maybe not even on this podcast, but Instagram for sure. I had Walmart placemats and dollar store mirrors and in my living room in 2014, and I was lit up, and I've chased that feeling ever since because I love sharing knowledge. Doing makeup is fun for me because I like talking to people when I'm doing it. The actual act of doing makeup doesn't really light me up, but teaching it does, and teaching
Mm.
individuals anything, honestly, but something that I'm passionate about is very, yeah, I'm super aligned with that.
And you wouldn't just teach with what you learned, you would add your spin and add your 2 cents onto it and make it better, efficient, easier to learn.
Mm, yeah.
That's why you're such a good teacher as well.
Thanks, Sheetal.
This is a very different podcast than anyone else is gonna listen to on here, which I love as well.
I
And then the
freaking love
final
this.
thing I'll leave with you on this for this podcast is that prioritizing joy and excitement is going to magnetize your business, your life, your relationships. You specifically, joy and excitement really come through in your gates and channels in very many parts of your design. So, but I think this is also a lesson for everyone listening is that if you follow your joy and your excitement, it will always lead you because that's your soul telling you you're on the
Yes.
right track.
Yeah,
So, whatever that is for you, trying different things or staying with one thing forever or being in
totally.
groups or being a hermit, whatever that is for you, your joy and excitement are lighting the way for that. Build your
Mhm.
book of evidence and trust that.
It's also really important to have the self-awareness to recognize what makes you happy and recognize what makes you excited about something or what lights you up because I think it's really really easy for us to go through day to day and we're
Mhm.
just going through the motions. We're picking up our kids from school, we're coming home, we're cooking dinner. But when we were out with our friends talking about that one topic, I was really really excited. And you need those like blimps, in your reality to recognize that that makes me really excited, and then it's your responsibility to carve out time to do that thing. Because we just get too busy. We get too busy doing the boring, mundane stuff, and then we're gonna wake up 65 years old with a pension and nothing to do and no excitement. That's
And no
boring.
excitement. And I think our soul I know for a fact that when you lack excitement and joy in your life, your soul starts to pull at you, tug at you,
Mm,
and you start to know something's missing. I hear this a lot from clients that find me. Something's missing in my life. I feel stuck. I don't know what makes me happy anymore. So many of the women that find me, especially in grief counseling, often say to me, I don't know what makes me happy anymore because
mm,
they've been filling all of these roles around them for so long that they've lost their own identity.
yeah,
So I love that you brought that up about like really paying attention to your body
yeah,
because we can get so disconnected. Our mind is so loud. And if you drop into your body and feel, what does your body feel like when you eat something delicious or eat something that's
totally.
not so good for you? Or when it feels excited for something or joyful about something, you're going to feel that in your body and know that that is truth because your
Hmm.
mind can try to override that.
Yeah, amen. I want to sit and hang out with you all the time. You were talking about doing some, I don't even know. it, we can take this out of the episode if you want, but talking about doing a retreat, as we're having this episode, I was like, sign me up. I'm in. I would love to share space with you for an extended period of time because I think that, well, you've got a really calming energy. I've got a really like high energy. So we might hopefully balance each other out. But also just what you have to say is just fascinating. It's fascinating.
I love that. Thank you so much for that beautiful comment.
It's true.
And it is, it's one of my superpowers. I found this out doing when I first started, when my gifts first started coming in about 16 years ago. I was taking intuition classes, and of course, because I want to learn about all the things.
Yes.
And I had this ability to sit with people and extend my energy to calm them down.
Mm.
So I became a trauma informed coach for that reason as well, because I literally can sit with you and bring your energy down as you're crying or having an upset moment. It's that I have that ability to do that. I know it's wild. It's like something out of like Twilight, if you ever watched.
I watched it, of course.
She can extend her energy. I know it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is definitely something I have that ability to do. The retreat, on the other hand, is on hold,
Okay.
because so many of the details they drive me crazy. Like I'm
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
travel right now, and what is that going to look like, and all those details. It just takes me out of my joy.
Yeah,
So when that happens, I know it's not the right time.
totally
So
fair.
it's on the back
Um,
burner until more details drop in.
Maybe we can do it at Maui when
That
things
sounds
calm down.
amazing.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, I get it. I had the idea to do a retreat and I talked about the details and I was like, "Oh, I don't love this. No, I'm not doing this. I can't. I'll just join retreats.
Yes.
I'll just be a guest for now." Um,
Absolutely.
okay, it was such a pleasure. This was incredible. Thank you everyone for listening about me. I,
And
uh,
about you.
and it was there was I mean there's so many very very interesting things that we chatted about today, but I think that if you are an entrepreneur or even someone that's just looking for more growth, more forward movement, doing something like human design not only opens up a bunch of different perspectives on yourself, but it gives Chantel just gave me so many things. I've been writing this down as we're having this episode. It's tips on how to do these things so it makes sense because there's so many Instagram 101, newsletter marketing, there's so many different ways that the world tells us to do things, but it's not always right for us, and I think it's important that we understand what's right for us.
100% well said. Yeah,
Thank
there's
you.
so many things out there, and it can drive you in circles, and really spending your money on all of these things that you don't actually need,
Yeah.
will never use. So, yes, yeah, doing it your way and,
Yeah.
finding success and prosperity on your terms is possible.
Amen. Where can my guests or my listeners find you?
Really quick way, I'm on Instagram at Sheetal Story, and or you can check out my website at www.sheetalstory.com and just hang out with me. I'm very extroverted, so you will see me in my DMs. I am always
It's true.
posting in my stories. It is all me. I do all my own social media. So if you want to connect with me, send me a hi. Tell me that you found me on Heather's podcast. I
Yes.
would love to talk to you and ask you your favorite part, and if you know anything about human design or astrology. I am, yeah, again, if you sit with me in rooms, you will be hooked on these things too.
I'm already hooked. I'm like, we only have an hour, but I would love to talk about she said we could talk about this for 5 hours. So I'm like, booking a session. And if you didn't catch all those letters and words that we just said, everything's in the show notes. So you don't have to worry about writing it down as you're driving or whatever. We make it really easy for you to find my guests. And thanks for spending the last hour with us. This was incredible. You've taught me so much, Sheetal, and I can't wait to speak with you more.
Thank you for having me. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Expansion Code Bridal Edition, your VIP access to a booked out, balanced, and thriving bridal business. If you loved today's episode, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow beauty pro. For more tips and behind the scenes magic, hang out with me on Instagram at IamHeatherDick or visit theexpansioncode.ca. Until next time, keep slaying those styles, leading with confidence, and remember, every detail counts, and so do you. Another little disclaimer, while I love sharing advice and business wisdom, I am not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, and I'm not your fairy godmother. If you do want to be best friends, though, you can hit me up. Everything on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so no lawsuits, okay?